Good morning and welcome to Sunday School. This week we're going to start off by doing a little experiment. I've got three different things here, a ball, a soft toy and a piece of paper. I'm going to hold each one up and then I'm going to let go of it. We're going to see what happens to it. So I want you to think now, what do you think would happen? If I let go of this ball, what would happen to it? Will it drop to the floor? Will it float away? What do you think is going to happen? Do you have faith that the ball will fall to the ground? Let's try it and see. So if I let go of the ball, straight onto the ground. Right, let's try the same thing with this soft toy. Oh, straight down to the floor again. What about this piece of paper? Oh, it floated a little bit more, but it did go straight down to the ground again. So today we're thinking a lot about faith. So what is faith? Faith is a firm belief in something. Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance of what we do not see. Let's keep thinking about faith as we discover more about Peter and how God worked through his faith. In Joppa there lived a lady called Tabitha. She was a believer and all the people in the church in Joppa loved her. She was always thinking up a kindness she could do for someone, and she was always making new clothes for people, especially those who were poor. One day Tabitha became ill and died. The people were very distressed. They felt they couldn't bear to part with her until they had had time to get used to the idea. So instead of burying her body at once, as was the custom, they washed it with loving care and placed it in an upstairs room. As they grieved, one of them said, "If Peter were here, he might be able to help." And another said, "But he is. He's in Lydda." And when he arrived there, he healed Aeneas, who hadn't been able to get out of bed for the last 8 years. The believers looked at each other with growing hope. Lydda was only a few miles from Joppa. Hastily, 2 of them set out. They found Peter and begged him to come back with them. Peter agreed. As soon as they reached Joppa, the believers took him to the upstairs room. There the widows whom Tabitha had helped so much were standing weeping. They showed Peter the clothes she had made for them while she was alive. Gently, Peter asked them all to leave the room. When they had gone, he knelt down and prayed. Then he turned towards the body. "Tabitha, stand up," he said. And she opened her eyes and looked at him. When she saw it was Peter, she sat up. He held out his hand and helped her to her feet. Then he opened the door of the room and showed her all the people who had been waiting outside. They had been hardly daring to hope. Now they saw. She was alive again. There was great rejoicing. The story spread all over Joppa, and many more people became believers. A tanner, a leather worker called Simon, invited Peter to stay at his house, and while he stayed there, Peter had a very strange dream. So thinking about the story we just heard, who showed their faith first in this story? It was the disciples who called for Peter. They had faith that God would work through them. What happened when God worked through Peter's faith? Tabitha was brought back to life and many people believed in Jesus. Peter is a fantastic example of someone who had a lot of faith in God and let God work in his life. God wants to work through our faith too. Even if we're never called to bring anybody back from the dead, God wants to work through every believer's faith.
Now, as we saw in the story, God worked through the faith that Peter had. Now, I've got some situations for you to think about to see how God might be able to work through you. Now, you might never ask to be called to raise someone from the dead, but there are lots of times when we can really show how God works by how we act in difficult situations. So, then read one out and see what we can think of. First one. Ready? Even though you practiced loads, you didn't get a big part in the school play. Your best friend did get an important role. How might God work through your faith? That's tricky because if I'd worked really hard, I'd want a really good part in the play too. So I'd be feeling quite sad. I might be feeling jealous. So how can God work through that? Let me think. If you know some, you shout them out. I know. I could still say, "Well done," to my friend. I could ask God to help me be happy for them because something good's happened to them, even though it didn't happen for me. I could make sure I'm still being their friend, because it wouldn't be a good use of faith if I stopped being their friend just because they got a better part than me. I could maybe pray that God would give me something to do in the play, maybe backstage or a different part, a smaller part, where I could still give him glory. Lots of ways that God can work through us. Did you think of any different ones? Next one. Are you ready? You have to move to a new school. None of your friends are going. Name a way that God might work through your faith. Oh, another tricky situation. How can God work through the faith we have in him? I could choose not to be angry or cross about the move. I could choose to accept that that's God's plan. That's God working through my faith. If people ask me why I'm not afraid about going to a new school, I could explain to them that my strength is in God. And that would be a really good chance to tell somebody else about Jesus. That's God working through our faith. I would definitely be praying and asking for God's help. And that's showing my faith, isn't it, to other people? Perhaps even at the new school, I might be able to make new friends and tell them about Jesus. Lots of options there. Right, ready for the last one? Right. Somebody in your family is very sick in hospital. Name a way that God might work through your faith. Ooh. Well, I can't make them better myself. Definitely haven't got the skills for that. Let's think. I know. We could pray that God will heal them. We could pray for strength and skills and wisdom for the doctors and nurses involved. I would tell the person that I'm praying for them. I would pray with them, perhaps read the Bible to them. But also I could be able to tell my friends and other family members that I'm not worried because I trust God. All of these are ways of showing our faith in God and showing that he can work through the faith that we had. Because just as God worked through Peter's faith, God works through our faith too, including in the hard times. And when God works through us, it gives us the chance to show other people Jesus' love. And hopefully other people will come to know Jesus too, because that's just how God works, and it's amazing. Letting God work through our faith is a central part of every Christian's life. Now, I will probably never ever be called to use my faith the way Peter was called to use his, but God does work through our faith still. He works through Ruth and I every week as we come and teach the Bible to all of you in Sunday school. Now, we're going to make something to help us remember that God works through our faith every day. So, you will need some coloured pens or pencils and a piece of paper or cardboard. I happen to have grabbed blue this morning. Okay, doesn't need to be blue. And the first thing you need to do is do what I've done and fold the two ends into the middle. So you've got a piece that can open like this. Okay, just fold them in and give it a good squash down at the sides. Now, on the front, we're going to write the word faith. Okay, right across the front fold. Let's see if I can do mine on here. So, F-A-I-T-H. Faith. Okay. And then inside, we're going to write the word God, because that reminds us that God is working through our faith. So inside, we're going to write the word God in nice big letters. Okay, so I've got God working through my faith. Now inside, I'm going to try and think of some ways that I know that God can work through my faith and put some reminders in so I can spot them this week when I see them happening. The first one I'm going to write down is not being angry when I'm upset about something. Because God can work through my faith to change my emotions and show that actually it's okay, there's a better way to be. I can be more like Jesus. So I'm going to write not being angry when I'm upset. Because being cross and angry doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't change what's happened, it just changes how I react to it. So I've written on there, not being angry when I'm upset. Let's think of a different one. What about being happy for other people when good things happen to them? So being happy for other people. That's a great way God can work through my faith. Being happy for others. And there's loads more you could think of on there, so I've just put this one there. It's up to you. You want to do different colours and make it as bright. You could fill the whole page. I could have written on there speaking to friends about Jesus. I could have written praying for people. I could have written talking about why I'm not scared about something because I trust that God's in control. All these are brilliant ways that we can show that God is working through our faith. So put this somewhere you can see it so you can remember that God works through your faith for all of these amazing things. Take some time this week and choose to let God work through your faith. And you'll see the amazing things that God has got planned. And we will see you next week. Take care. Bye.